In the heart of Manila, among jeepneys rattling down the streets and vendors shouting to sell their goods, lived Ramon de la Cruz, a tricycle driver whose life revolved around one thing, his daughter, Isabella. He had once been a husband too, but fate dealt him a cruel hand when his beloved wife passed away from illness. Left alone, he took on every role: father, mother, protector, and provider. His days began before sunrise, ferrying passengers across the city, and ended long after dusk when exhaustion settled deep in his bones. Yet, despite his struggles, he never let Isabella feel unloved. Every night, after a long day of work, he would take out his battered guitar. The wooden body was chipped, its strings weathered, but when he played, it carried their pain and their joy. Isabella, only 10 but already with a voice that could silence a crowd, would sit by him and sing. Together, they created a fragile world of music that reminded them of her mother's warmth. One night at a barangay fiesta in Quezon City, they were asked to perform. The people clapped and cheered, amazed by the way their voices blended. After the show, a woman approached them. She was visiting from abroad and had tears in her eyes. "You too must audition for America's Got Talent. You belong on a world stage." Ramon smiled politely but shook his head. "We are simple people. That's too far from us." But Isabella tugged at his sleeve, her eyes shining with hope. "Papa, Mama would want us to try. Please." Her words struck him deeply. He knew his little girl carried a dream bigger than their small rented home, bigger than the streets of Manila. Against his fears, Ramon sold his old motorbike to buy tickets. For the first time in their lives, they stepped onto an airplane, holding hands, hearts pounding with a mix of fear and hope, heading to Los Angeles, a place where dreams either die or take flight. The stage of America's Got Talent was nothing like the fiestas back home. As they stood behind the curtain, the roar of the audience echoed through the massive hall. Isabella clutched her father's rough hand, her small fingers trembling. "Papa, I'm scared," she whispered. Ramon knelt down, brushing her cheek with his calloused palm. "Anak, we are not here to win. We are here to sing from the heart. That's enough." When their names were called, bright lights bathed them. Simon Cowell, seated with his usual serious expression, tilted his head as they walked forward. "What are your names?" he asked. Ramon cleared his throat nervously. "We are Ramon and Isabella, from Manila, Philippines. We sing together, because it is the only thing that kept us strong after my wife, her mother, passed away." His voice cracked on the last words, and the crowd murmured in sympathy. Simon leaned forward, curiosity in his eyes. "All right. Whenever you're ready." Ramon lifted his guitar. The first chords echoed gently across the arena, and Isabella's voice followed. Soft, pure, and trembling like a prayer. Instantly, the audience fell silent. Her high note soared above the music, raw and angelic, while Ramon's deeper tone wrapped around hers like a protective embrace. Together, they created not just a performance, but a living memory of their lost wife and mother. Halfway through the song, Isabella faltered, her voice breaking under the weight of nerves. The vast hall seemed too overwhelming. She looked at her father, panic flashing in her eyes. Ramon stopped strumming for a second, knelt beside her, and whispered, "Anak, I am here. Always." His words steadied her trembling heart. When she began again, her voice was stronger, braver. The audience leaned forward, mesmerized, feeling every ounce of their struggle and love woven into the song. Simon's lips parted slightly. For the first time that night, his stern gaze softened. Something in their story, in their sound, reached him. "This," he murmured, almost to himself, "this is special." As their performance swelled toward the chorus, the hall transformed. Isabella's voice rose, crystal clear, carrying both the innocence of childhood and the weight of grief. Ramon's guitar wrapped around her melody, his deep harmonies filling in the spaces as though he were building walls to protect her fragile voice. The father and daughter weren't just singing, they were holding each other up through every note. The audience, thousands strong, leaned into the moment. Some wiped tears, others held their breath. For a brief time, all distractions vanished, and only the music mattered. The camera panned across the judges' faces. Sophia's eyes shimmered with tears. Heidi had her hand pressed to her heart. Howie nodded slowly, visibly moved. But it was Simon's reaction that stunned everyone. The man known for his sharp criticism leaned forward, elbows on the table, staring intently. His jaw tightened, his eyes glistened. He whispered, barely audible, "Wow." Near the final verse, Isabella's voice wavered again. Her father gently pressed his forehead against hers, continuing to strum without missing a beat. That closeness gave her courage. She drew in a shaky breath, then delivered the last notes with stunning strength, her tone echoing through the arena like a light breaking through darkness. The audience erupted in applause even before the song ended. When the last chord faded, silence held for a heartbeat, then the arena exploded. People leapt to their feet, clapping, cheering, whistling. Isabella threw her arms around her father's neck, sobbing with relief and joy. Ramon held her tight, whispering in Tagalog, "Magaling ka, anak. I am so proud of you." Simon, rarely one to show raw emotion, wiped his cheek quickly, but the camera had already caught it. A tear had escaped. It was a moment that no one in the room would ever forget, a reminder that the toughest hearts can still be melted by pure love. The applause thundered long after Ramon and Isabella finished. The little girl buried her face in her father's chest, overwhelmed by the noise, while Ramon's hands shook from both nerves and relief. When the cheers finally calmed, the judges began to speak. Sofia Vergara was first, her voice trembling. "That was so emotional. You two brought the entire audience into your story. It was beautiful." Heidi Klum nodded eagerly, wiping her eyes. "Your voices together are like magic. I felt every single word." Howie Mandel leaned into his microphone. "You proved that talent is not about fame or money, it's about heart. And your performance had so much heart." Finally, all eyes turned to Simon. The room grew quiet, anticipation heavy in the air. Simon leaned back, took a breath, then looked straight at Ramon and Isabella. "You know," he began, "I've judged thousands of auditions over the years. And sometimes, you hear something that isn't perfect, but it's unforgettable. Ramon, Isabella. You didn't just sing. You told us your life story. And it touched me deeply." The audience clapped, agreeing with every word. Simon continued, his voice uncharacteristically soft. "I want you to remember this moment forever. Because for me, it's one of the best I've ever seen on this stage." Then, with no warning, Simon stood up, stretched across the judge's desk, and slammed his palm on the golden buzzer. The crowd erupted into screams of joy as golden confetti burst from above, raining down like blessings. Isabella gasped, covering her mouth with tiny hands before bursting into tears. Ramon sank to his knees, overwhelmed, clutching his daughter as the confetti swirled around them. For a man who had once felt invisible on the streets of Manila, this moment was almost too much to believe. As the confetti fell, Isabella buried her face in her father's arms, sobbing. Ramon, fighting tears himself, kissed her forehead. "This is for you, Anak, and for your mama," he whispered. The stage crew, the audience, even the judges were wiping their eyes. The golden buzzer wasn't just about a ticket to the live shows, it was about recognition, about showing the world that love and perseverance could shine through poverty and pain. Simon stepped onto the stage, something he rarely did. He walked toward Ramon and Isabella, smiling warmly. "This," he said softly, "is exactly why I love this show. It's about real people, with real stories, touching the world. You too, you reminded us all of what truly matters." He embraced them both, golden confetti still falling like stars. Back in Manila, people gathered around televisions in small sari-sari stores and living rooms, cheering as they saw one of their own on the world stage. Pride swelled across the Philippines, proof that even from the humblest corners, greatness could rise. For Ramon, it was never about fame or fortune. It was about giving Isabella a chance to dream, to believe that her voice mattered. For Isabella, it was about keeping her mother's memory alive through every song. And for Simon, it was about rediscovering why he started judging talent in the first place, to witness moments that change lives. As they left the stage, Isabella held her father's hand tightly, eyes still wide with wonder. "Papa," she whispered, "do you think Mama saw us?" Ramon smiled through his tears. "Yes, Anak. She saw everything. And she is smiling." In that moment, it was clear, this wasn't just a performance. It was a story of love, resilience, and hope that melted every heart. A father and daughter from Manila had touched the world, reminding everyone that family and music can heal even the deepest wounds.